Hello everyone, this is Mondandagavan. In today's video, we are going to see getters and setter methods. In general, it will be called as the accessor methods in JavaScript. When you just go to the previous example, the class person, it will be having the constructor function, which will be setting the first and last name for the newly initialized object. Apart from this, we have two more methods, full name. Both has the same name, but the arguments are empty in one case, and another case, it has the argument called full name itself. And it has the prefixes get and set, which make these methods as the getters and setter methods. In previous objects or classes, we will be having the properties, but that will be the data properties. This one will be called as the accessor properties, which means that these methods will allow you to access the properties. In our case, the property is full name. Let's consider when you create the instance, this full name will be considered as the property rather than the method. For example, you can set the value for the full name or you can retrieve the value for the full name. But why do we need to have a separate methods when you have the constructor function? Why? Because the full name has some logical operation to create the full name. In simple example, we will be just concatenating the first name and last name for a simple understanding purpose. The same way, when you just set the value for the full name, it does not have any property full name directly, but internally it will be splitted into the first name and last name. That operation we need to do when you have just having the new value for the full name. So for that purpose, we will be having the getters and setter methods. Apart from this, we can do some validation on the user inputs. For example, when you set the values for the full name, it should have only two values. Let's say two strings, the first name and last name. Apart from that, if we have more than any string, that should not be considered as the valid full name. Like as, let's say when we have a different special characters inside the full name and last name, we can restrict that. These are the simple examples that you can do the validation on the full name. So in these scenarios, you will go with the getters and setter methods. For example, here once you create the person class, let's say with the constructor function and the getters and setters for the full name, you can create the object instance. For example, P1 is the instance for the person class. We will be sending two different values, Jack and Sparrow, as the first and last name for the person class. But when you try to print it P1.full name, you are trying to retrieve or you are trying to read the value of the full name. When you try to read the value, automatically it will be calling the get method with the full name. That means that the line number 8 will be called. Why? Because you are trying to read it. And you are not passing any value because you are trying to read it. So it will be called, and we are concatenating the first and last name, which we have set when you initialize the person object. The same way, when you try to assign the value for the full name, let's say P1.full name equal to Mark Antony, you are trying to assign the value. So whatever the value you are trying to assign, that value will be sent as an argument to the full name. Since you are trying to assign the value or write the value, the set method will be called. Set full name will be called with the value Mark Antony. Then we are destructuring the value with splitting the full name with the space characters. Then we will be assigning the first value to the first and last value to the last. Considering we have only two values. Let's say if user has sent multiple values, Mark Antony test 1, 2, 3, something like that. That time you need to have the validation on the set full name method. Once you have assigned the value, when you print the P1 method, or sorry, when you print the P1 object, you will be seeing the whatever the value you have sent as the full value Mark Antony, the mark will be assigned to the first name automatically, and last will be assigned to the, the Antony will be assigned to the last value. Why? Because we are doing the destructuring in the line number 14. So this way we can do some manipulation or validation on the properties by using the getters and setter methods. Let's execute and see how the output goes. Here you can see when you just send the first and last name separately, but when you try to call the P1.full name, it will be calling the get method and it will be combining both values with the spaces and it will print Jack Sparrow. And second time, when you assign the value Mark Antony to the full name, internally we are just splitting and we are assigning to the first and last internally. That means that under the set method. So that's the reason when you print the P1 object, it will be having the first value as the Mark and last value as the Antony, which will be assigned inside the setter methods. So this way in the oops, or in classes, we will be having the getters and setter methods. Other point is this getters and setter methods not only for the classes, but also for the objects. Even in objects, you can use the getters and setter methods. So this is all about the very brief introduction about the getters and setter methods in JavaScript. So thanks all. Thanks for watching and have a great day.